Tonight, ships attacked in the Gulf, oil stocks released and quality standards reduced to allow more fuel to flow. Good evening and welcome to ABC News Victoria. I'm Alexandra Alvaro. Also tonight, a newborn baby found in a Keilor Downs backyard. Shifting the cost of building inspections, the government's plan to make sellers foot the bill. Turning wine into gold, searching for a glittering prize among the vines. And the traditional opener to round one, the MCG becomes a sea of yellow, black and blue. "32 countries have agreed to release 400 million barrels of oil to address fears over global supply as the US and Israel's war with Iran escalates. Dramatic scenes have unfolded in the Strait of Hormuz, where about 1/5 of the world's oil passes through, as Iran attacks oil tankers and cargo vessels.
Pouring fuel on the flames of war. Oman oil storage facilities hit by drones. While explosive-laden Iranian boats target oil tankers straddling the Strait of Hormuz, Iraq evacuating dozens of crew members from burning vessels.
All members here.
These Thai crew capturing the moment they escaped an Iranian attack. As the war stems the flow of oil tankers through the strait, 32 countries, members of the International Energy Agency, are launching the largest ever release of emergency stocks, 400 million barrels of oil.
But, to be clear, the most important thing for a return to stable flows of oil and gas is the resumption of transit through the Strait of Hormuz.
The regime remains adamant it won't allow a single drop through.
Any vessel whose ship or oil cargo belongs to the United States, the Zionist regime or their hostile partners will be considered a legitimate target.
The US President Donald Trump providing his assurance.
And my administration, as you know better than anybody, is also working to keep the oil flowing. It's flowing all over.
As US and Israel's bombardment of Iran continues, the country's exiled crown prince has renewed calls for the regime's military to defect.
This is your last chance to break from the oppressive forces and join your people.
While the Islamic Republic issued a stern warning.
If someone comes to the streets at the request of the enemy, we do not see them as protesters. We see them as enemies. All our children are ready to fire.
The Iranian government has also released evidence it says proves the US killed more than 160 civilians, mostly children, in a strike on a girls' school. This vision purportedly showing debris from a US missile, adding to preliminary findings by US authorities.
A new report says the military investigation has found it was the United States that struck the school.
I don't know about it.
Iran is demonstrating it can still fight back, firing at Israel and targets across the Middle East. The Israeli government says its operation with the US will continue for as long as it takes to crush the Iranian regime. Bridget Rollison, ABC News, Jerusalem.
Australia is still finalising its response to the International Energy Agency's call. But today, the federal government took action to boost domestic fuel supplies. The Energy Minister temporarily relaxing environmental standards to alleviate shortages in regional areas. Here's National Affairs correspondent Jane Norman.
Rising prices fueling panic. Unleaded now firmly over $2 a litre. Diesel a record high.
The fact that Bunnings ran out of jerry cans is enough evidence that we've gone down the wrong path here.
Panic buying and stockpiling disrupting the supply chain.
We're seeing a doubling of demand for fuel since the bombing of Iran, and that is what has caused real unacceptable supply chain pressure.
The government insists supply is not the issue, with 36 days worth of petrol, 32 days of diesel and 29 days of jet fuel in reserve. But Australia is exposed. With only 2 refineries on shore, 90% of its fuel is imported.
Can the Prime Minister guarantee that Australia will not run out of fuel?
Can you guarantee Australia will not run out of fuel?
Resume your seat.
Under pressure, the government's taken action, temporarily boosting supplies by relaxing the fuel standards designed to reduce pollutants and emissions.
This will see 100 million litres of fuel extra flow in Australia a month over that time.
Roughly 2 days' worth. Brisbane's Ampol refinery to redirect the dirtier fuel normally exported into the domestic market. Regional Australia the priority.
Practical action to help farmers, to help regional Australians through this immediate crisis.
We need a way too to make sure that, if needed, restrictions could be applied in our big metropolitan areas so that food production isn't hindered.
A fortnight into this war, the government is grappling with the enormous economic aftershocks. Treasury analysis seen by the ABC suggests if oil prices remain at current levels, inflation is set to surge even higher above the Reserve Bank's band, putting more pressure on the board to lift interest rates. Jane Norman, ABC News, Canberra.
There's no immediate fix for surging fuel prices, despite pledges from governments around the world to do what they can to ease price pressures. Here's Chief Business Correspondent Ian Verinder with his take.
There was a swift reaction to the International Energy Agency's decision to open the oil floodgates. It bolted past $100 a barrel. Perhaps someone did the maths. 400 million barrels divided by 20 million a day taken out by the war. That's less than 3 weeks' supply. In our case, the situation is even more dire. Our oil production has dropped 90% since 2000. Most is now sent to Singapore, where it's refined and then shipped back at enormous cost. We're supposed to have 3 months of strategic reserves, but that was scaled back to 50 days, with a large portion held in America, which has since been sold. On some estimates, we have just 25 days' worth in the can. The longer the Persian Gulf is shut, the more acute and extended the shortage, and the higher prices will climb. In the US, gasoline has surged 20% in the past fortnight, putting pressure on Donald Trump to swiftly bring this conflict to a close.
To today's other news, and a newborn baby has been taken to hospital after being found abandoned in the backyard of a home in Melbourne's northwest. A nearby woman was also hospitalised, the case sparking a major police investigation, leaving neighbours in shock.
A quiet suburban street, alive with police activity, as neighbours wake up to a shocking discovery.
I feel awful, why these things, happen.
Police were alerted by a member of the public around 8 o'clock this morning that they'd found the newborn baby in their Keilor Downs backyard. This security vision showing the moment emergency services descended on the street.
The ambulance, the police, rushing in, cars in and out, and then, everyone's panicking and going towards that side.
The baby and a woman from a nearby address were taken to hospital for treatment. Both are in a stable condition. Meanwhile, officers spent the day scouring the scene. This piece of yellow fabric was left on the nature strip in the morning. Later in the day, an SES tent went up over it.
It's still unclear exactly what's taken place here. Other neighbours we've spoken to said they heard multiple people arguing, loud noises and a bang.
Just sort of a crisp sound, and I thought, no, it can't be a gun or anything, or a firecracker.
The investigation is being handled by the Brimbank Sexual Offences and Child Abuse Investigation Team. Leanne Wong, ABC News, Melbourne.
The Victorian Government says it will introduce mandatory pre-sale building inspections paid for by vendors to make buying a home fairer. Under the current system, potential buyers can organise their own inspections, but they aren't compulsory. There are warnings that putting the onus on sellers could undermine their independence.
It's one of life's biggest purchases, but before taking the leap, real estate agent Michael Tomadakis says buyers should always be armed with a building inspection.
There obviously are things that can come up, and I wouldn't really buy anything without one.
but the onus may soon shift. The Premier today saying a re-elected Labor government would introduce a scheme requiring vendors to provide a building and pest inspection before selling their property.
When you're selling a car, the seller needs to provide a roadworthy certificate to all of the interested buyers. The same approach needs to be taken for interested buyers looking at buying a home.
Home buyer Rose Kenny spent hundreds on inspections when looking for a house.
We spent all of this money for all of these reports, and it is even more disappointing when you get to the end and you're like, well, that's $500 wasted.
While the plan is light on details, the Premier is promising to consult widely. The Real Estate Institute of Victoria backs the idea, but others say it will undermine the independence of building inspectors.
They're no longer having a client who is the purchaser. Their client will become the vendor or the agents, and so their incentive is to continue getting work by providing reports that have the most limited number of issues.
It's not an independent inspection report. It's a report that's going to go into the REIV contract. This report will be whitewashed. It won't be a proper report.
1.21. Legislation won't be introduced until 2027.
Well, this is another big promise by the Labor government with no intention to follow through before the election. This is a promise without any detail.
Buyers who want their own building inspection would still be able to obtain one ahead of sale. Sasha Payne, ABC News, Melbourne.
Former ASIO boss Dennis Richardson has assured the public the Royal Commission into Anti-Semitism and Social Cohesion will not be impacted by his early departure. Mr Richardson was appointed to probe the AFP and ASIO in the wake of the Bondi terror attack before his review was folded into the Royal Commission, which is due to hand down its interim report next month. He says his function in the inquiry was that of an overpaid researcher.
I think the destination the Royal Commission gets to will be not much different to the destination if I had have remained there or if I had have been doing it alone.
The Aussie-founded tech giant Atlassian is the latest to announce massive job cuts because of artificial intelligence. 1,600 positions will be axed worldwide, hundreds of them in Australia. The software company says the cuts will help it self-fund more investment in AI.
When you join as an engineer at Atlassian,
it's been a rocky year for tech stocks, with competition from AI pushing out software companies like Atlassian.
This is a very tough day. Days like these are among the toughest that we have as a company.
By the end of the decade, 99% of jobs could be automated away.
The AI boom is making global headlines.
Amazon announcing its largest job cuts in years.
And it's behind tens of thousands of job losses at some of the world's biggest brands.
Slashing nearly 48,000 workers.
Now Atlassian is cutting 1,600 jobs globally, with 500 coming from its Australian operations.
Nightmare for a whole bunch of teammates, yeah.
Many of them were hoping to work at the company's new global headquarters under construction near Sydney's Central Station. Atlassian says the job cuts will allow it to boost investment in AI, arguing it needs to adapt to stay afloat.
Proving that we can grow profitably over the long term by staying responsive to the world that we have to operate in.
Atlassian's share price has plummeted 66% in the last 12 months, from $227 last March to just over $75 today. Atlassian joins other Australian-founded companies like Canva, WiseTech and Block in announcing significant job cuts in response to the AI revolution.
Until software companies are able to explain to the market how they're able to leverage AI to generate new value for their shareholders, then they're going to be in for pretty rough times.
And rough times ahead for the humans that lose their jobs to AI. Jessica Kidd, ABC News.
An outback chopper pilot and a police officer have been labelled heroes after they saved 2 people and their dog from a car stuck in floodwaters in the Northern Territory town of Katherine. Onlookers captured the nail-biting rescue, showing the pilot spotting the car, which became trapped after trying to cross a flooded causeway. The pilot managed to hover next to the vehicle, while a brave police officer stood on the roof and helped the driver, passenger and the German Shepherd to safety.
Chopper doesn't fly differently because there's floodwater there. It just looks spectacular. So you just have to try and be as professional as you can.
While Victoria's wine industry is slowly recovering from crisis, the state's gold industry is enjoying a renaissance. The contrasting fortunes of the two industries is coming to a head in the state's west, where a gold exploration company has bought multiple vineyards.
There's profit to be found in the earth of Victoria's Great Western region. For 160 years, Best's Wines has grown grapes here and crafted award-winning drops.
Our region, for a small region, bats above its weight.
But others are now digging deeper to unearth something more valuable. Gold exploration company Orica last year bought 3 nearby vineyards as it drills for lucrative gold deposits.
I feel it quite sad because our little wine region's getting littler, getting a bit lonely down here. The wine industry at the moment is in a lot of pain, a lot of hurt. I don't know anyone in that wine industry that's driving around in too many Ferraris and sitting back laughing.
The Great Western land purchases are a symptom of the differing fortunes of the wine and gold industries. After Australia's biggest wine importer, China, slapped huge tariffs on Australian wine in 2020, Victoria's total wine exports plummeted. At the same time, gold was on the rise, before exploding over the past 2 years. Meaning Orica has seen an opportunity to buy into the region, while wine growers are getting out. Orica says growing operations will continue at the 3 vineyards as long as they remain viable. The new economic scorecard from Wine Victoria shows the industry may finally be rebounding, with findings of total exports returning to 2019 levels last year.
I think there's some really positive insights in this report that show that, a direction forward for the industry.
While some are hoping the next big gold rush is just around the corner, others are simply hopeful that Victoria's $10.8 billion wine industry is already experiencing its own resurgence. Harrison Tippett, ABC News.
Israel's intense bombardment of Lebanon is fueling a humanitarian crisis that's putting immense strain on the financially crippled country. More than 700,000 Lebanese citizens are now displaced, with people forced to camp in tents.
Lebanon's largest football stadium usually fits 45,000 fans. Now hundreds of residents are seeking shelter from Israeli strikes underneath the stands.
We were bathing the children when they suddenly issued a warning to evacuate the entire southern suburbs of Beirut. So we quickly put our things in a van and left right away.
This is a crisis that involves all of Lebanon.
The local municipality is trying to provide services to those sleeping at the complex and at 100 other sites across Beirut.
Well, the first thing is to try to reach out to people. We have to understand that these people have escaped very dangerous situations.
I honestly don't know if it'll be a long time or a short time.
The threat is ever present as Israel continues its bombardment of Beirut and beyond. After the Lebanese militant group Hezbollah weighed into the broader regional conflict in solidarity with Iran. Lebanon's social safety net is non-existent, leaving charities to feed, clothe and house the desperate and displaced.
We cannot tell no for anyone.
This kitchen is serving up to 5,000 meals a day, almost double its usual amount.
We feel deep down in our mission, we are protected by our God.
And some of those who keep the kitchen going recently fled their own homes in the south.
With my yoga and my faith, we always stay hopeful. Hopefully we will return.
Feeding that dream, the order of the day. Matthew Doran, ABC News.
To finance now, and reports of ships being attacked around the Persian Gulf led to a renewed spike in oil prices and a bruising day for the Australian share market. Here's David Chow.
In the past 24 hours, the Aussie dollar got pretty close to 72 US cents, which is its highest level in 3.5 years, before it went down slightly to 71.2 cents. Its gains in recent days were due to some comments by the Reserve Bank Deputy Governor Andrew Hauser, who said there'll be a very genuine debate at the next RBA meeting. All four of Australia's big banks interpreted that to mean expect a rate hike next Tuesday. And it couldn't have come at a worse time, especially with oil back above $100 US a barrel, which dashes any hope of petrol prices falling back to where they were before Israel and America attacked Iran. This latest spike came after reports of at least 6 ships being attacked near the Strait of Hormuz over the past day. So Donald Trump's pledge to offer Navy protection to oil tankers and the International Oil Agency's decision to release a record amount of oil into the markets have essentially done nothing to calm investors' nerves. So while oil surged 9% today, the price of gold went down to about $5,140 US an ounce. So it's probably no surprise that oil stocks did well today and shares of gold miners did poorly. And overall, it was another bad day for the share market after it fell by a fairly steep 1.4%, as the reality seems to be sinking in that this war could drag on and lead to higher fuel prices, higher inflation and higher interest rates. Overseas, things weren't that much better for markets in the US or Asia. And just finally, the cheerful folks at Commonwealth Bank have warned this war could last months, that markets are currently underestimating the risks, and the oil price could even surge above $150 US a barrel, which would be a new record for all the wrong reasons. And that's finance.
Coming up on 7:30 with Sarah Ferguson, the Kurdish militia mobilising to join the war on Iran. Are they your fighters?
Yes, they're all coming here now because they know America and Israel are attacking Iran.
Our goal is to end the occupation of Kurdistan by the Iranian regime.
Also, I'll speak to former Israeli Defence Minister Benny Gantz about what comes next in the war that's coming up.
To sport now, and Carlton will be desperate to turn its fortunes around when it takes on Richmond in the traditional round one clash this evening. Tom Maddox is at the MCG. Tom, a big crowd has turned out tonight. What can we expect?
Alex, there should be a crowd of around 80,000 people here at the MCG tonight to see two sides that have traditionally kicked off the AFL season in round one, a mainstay for many years now. But of course we have opening rounds, so 10 clubs have already begun their 2026 season, including Carlton, who, as you say, will be desperate to bounce back from last week's heavy loss to Sydney. In that dismal third quarter, they conceded 12 goals to the Swans. Should the Blues lose tonight, the spotlight will only intensify on coach Michael Voss. It was an underwhelming 2025 for Voss. He's keen to move on, and it seems his mantra is out with the old and in with the new. And certainly the face of the new at the Blues is Jagger Smith, who's set to feature again tonight. For the Tigers, they're going to debut highly talented youngster Sam Grill. And Richmond will be looking for a repeat of the round one result from last year when they stunned the Blues by 13 points here at the MCG to kick off their season. And Alex, look out for Sam Lawler tonight. Of course, he debuted last season. Promising signs he's primed this year and will be really the headline act of the Tigers' rebuild this season. Alex.
OK, Tom Maddox at the MCG, thank you. Members of the men's Iranian soccer team will not play in the FIFA World Cup, co-hosted by the United States later this year. Meanwhile, supporters here say everything will be done to make the 6 members of the women's team who sought asylum in Australia feel at home in their new country.
Firuza Amiri knows what it's like to start a new life in Australia as a refugee.
It would be very hard when you say bye to your home and you know that you're not going to go back ever.
The Iranian-born member of the Afghan women's cricket team fled the country when the Taliban returned to power. She has this advice for the 6 members of the Iranian women's football team who sought asylum in Australia.
Missing home, I always do find a cricket ground. You can find a soccer field. That will be reminding you who you are.
The Iranian women are getting help from the International Footballers Union, and A-League clubs have offered to help.
Finding houses, support them in relation to learning English, etc. So there'll be a whole community around them.
It's an opportunity for them to know that there's a club out here that cares about them and is willing to offer them a safe space.
The members of the team who left Australia are still in Malaysia, their journey home still up in the air. Now, Iran's men's team has pulled out of this year's FIFA World Cup in the United States. The country's sports minister appeared on TV saying,
"This corrupt government assassinated our leader, so we are not in a situation to participate in the World Cup."
Hours earlier, FIFA President Gianni Infantino met with the US President Donald Trump, later posting, President Trump reiterated that the Iranian team is, of course, welcome to compete in the tournament in the United States. That wishful thinking was quickly washed away. This week's events have well and truly put paid to that thorny old cliche that sport and politics never mix. David Mark, ABC News.
Australia will be without first-choice players Hayley Raso and Steph Catley for Friday's Women's Asian Cup quarter-final against North Korea in Perth. Raso was concussed during the Matildas' 4-0 win over Iran a week ago, while Catley suffered the same injury during the 3-3 draw with South Korea on Sunday. Both players did light training away from the main group today as Australia chases a semi-final berth and Women's World Cup qualification. Australian Lauren Parker has finished 8th in the cross-country 10-kilometre sitting event at the Winter Paralympics in Italy. The 37-year-old won gold at the 2024 Summer Games in cycling and triathlon and only began skiing in June last year. Dave Milne and Matt Brumby competed in the cross-country 10-kilometre sitting event, finishing 20th and 31st respectively. 5 pinball machines made in Newcastle more than 40 years ago have been added to the National Film and Sound Archive, featuring classic Australiana designs like FJ Holden, Dennis Lilly Cricket and the first ever Star Wars pinball machine. They'll also be open for the public to play for the first time.
In the 60s and 70s, pinball parlours were going off. Popular, but expensive to import, a Newcastle-based jukebox manufacturer began building them locally, designed by David Hankin.
Hankin was making these machines with no intention for overseas distribution, so they could really harness Australiana in the designs.
At the peak of production, the Newcastle company had 50 staff building 5 different designs, including the first ever Star Wars pinball machine.
We approached George Lucas and said, would he be interested in doing something like this, or allowing us to do something like this? And the answer, surprisingly, was yes.
The complicated electronic and mechanical designs of pinball machines meant that they were prone to failure, but it was the introduction of Space Invaders in 1980 that sent many of them to the tip.
The fact was, you couldn't give a pinball machine away once Space Invaders came out.
The National Film and Sound Archive snapping up all 5 working Hankin machines, tracked down by Canberra-based collectors Stephen and Cassandra Smith.
Hankin did it at a time where they were the sole producers in Australia, and that's remarkable, that really is.
The almost 50-year-old pinball machines will be on public display later this year, playable by kids, both big and small, for generations to come. Gianfranco Di Giovanni, ABC News.
To the weather now, and overnight a cold front moved to the east of the state. There were a couple of showers about Gippsland. It was warmest at Gaybo Island, 14 degrees, and coldest at Mount Buller, 1.4. It was a mild day today, much cooler than yesterday. Patchy showers across the south of the state. The warmest temperature was in Mildura, only 24 degrees. In Melbourne, it reached a top of 19 degrees. It's 17 in the city right now. Interstate today, Hobart and Darwin had showers. It was cloudy in Adelaide and sunny in Sydney, Brisbane and Perth. The satellite image shows thick cloud with embedded thunderstorms across the north of Australia. There's patchy cloud across southern Victoria and Tassie. A ridge of high pressure is extending over southern Victoria. It'll persist through to the end of the week and into the weekend. There'll be showers and storms across the tropics and a few showers for parts of New South Wales, WA, SA and Tasmania. For the capital cities, Brisbane and Darwin will have showers. It'll be cloudy in Perth and sunny in Adelaide. Back home, it'll be dry and sunny across the north. 25 for Swan Hill, 21 in Bendigo and Ararat. It'll be partly cloudy in the south with isolated showers most likely over Gippsland, Bairnsdale and Sale. 20 degrees, Wonthaggi 19. On the bay, 15 to 20 knots south to southwesterlies, tending south to southeasterly during the day. Waves up to 1.5 metres. Friday in Melbourne will be cloudy with a top of 20 degrees, down to 14 degrees tonight. And looking ahead, Saturday mostly sunny, 24, Sunday 27 and partly cloudy, Monday a shower or two, 23, Tuesday 22, Wednesday 24, Thursday 25 degrees. And that is it for this evening's bulletin. Stay with us now for 7:30 with Sarah Ferguson.